first?
Always the bad news first.
Always the bad
news first.
Get that out of the way. All right. The bad news is that we are going to see more rain into Texas, very heavy rain. Corpus Christi, however, on Sunday, we were 7 inches below average on rainfall for the year. Any guesses where we're at now with all the rain that we've seen so far? Anyone have a guess? For the year, what's our deficit?
Nothing.
It's about an inch.
Yeah.
A little over an inch. We basically wiped out our deficit. So the good news is deficit's gone. We're going to see improved conditions on the drought monitor. Bad news is it all came at one time. So why is Corpus getting it way worse than Houston? By the way, there are no flash flood warnings. There really aren't any. There's a little tiny flood advisory, but we don't have flood watches in Houston. And the reason being is this low pressure in southern Texas. You know when you're sitting on the couch and you have to like kind of struggle to get up? And then someone just takes their hand and they just pop you up. That's what's happening here. The moisture's coming in, so it's there, but away from this low pressure, it's struggling to be squeezed out of the atmosphere. But this low in southern Texas, that is going to squeeze it out. And so all of this deep moisture, it continues through the day today. Again, where we have that low pressure giving us the extra hand in the atmosphere, Jim, to pull us out here, and that is going to continue to cause some problems. The only good news is, as we head into Thursday, Friday, things actually get much improved in Texas.
Yeah, it starts to diffuse a little bit.
It seems like this area has been non-stop, storm after
crazy,
storm after, right?
Wet month.
For Nebraska, it just has not stopped. So right now into Omaha, we do have cloudy skies, some light rain, temperature at 70 degrees. But as we widen out, I want to show you this area, southeastern Nebraska, some places up to 7 inches of rain. And as you can see, we are getting more. Now, this system, this is going to be pulling away. Okay, so it is going to be taking the rain with it, but unfortunately it's going to have to get through Iowa. We do have flash flood warning going on right now, and here's where we have all of our flood alerts. Again, remember, the problem with these areas is that we have seen rain, we have saturated grounds, and now we're getting more. And this is our little disturbance that's popping on down. Same thing that's happening in Texas, right? The little low pressure is able to squeeze more moisture out of the atmosphere. That's what low pressures do. That's what fronts do. Because the storms, they go towards the fronts. They're lifting mechanisms. They're all low pressures. These are little low pressures. Look at that little spin, by the way. Low pressure there. And so low pressures, like low pressures, they hang together and they squeeze the moisture out. And again, we get a little enhancement here as we get some of that daytime heating. But Jim, I always think it's cool, Jen, when you can see that rotation in the radar there. But hey, at least our temperatures are going to be cooling off.
There's that. That is the good news.
Actual tornado, you know, that of course was a simulation. I don't want everyone to get confused here because this is actually a tornado warning in southern Texas. Now, we're not anticipating the damage like Jim just showed you. This is right now just radar indicated. We don't have a tornado on the ground, but it's hard to tell where it is, right? You got to look for this little notch that comes down on the radar. That's one indication. Another thing we can do is we can swap the radars and show you a different radar that shows us the winds. Red means the winds are going away from the radar. Green means the winds are going towards. So if you take a pencil and you put it in between your hands, away towards, there's that twisting in the atmosphere, right? But right now it's a broad circulation, though it does look like it's starting to tighten up a little bit right here. So we will continue to watch for this. When you have that red and green really close like that, this right now is just a broad rotation. I don't know, it looks like it's trying to tighten up for you there. So right now this is all headed off to the north and east, so watch out for a tornado. You should seek shelter immediately if you live in any of these areas. Harlingen, of course, this is going to last until 6:30 a.m. That's when this system is going to be over your area. Go to your safe room right now. Make sure you bring your helmet, your shoes, the whole thing, because at any point you could have a tornado, and you don't need an EF5, as Jim was just showing us, in order to get significant damage. EF0, EF1, they can do some serious damage to your house. So again, we're going to continue to watch this little notch headed right towards the Harlingen area. We do have flash flood warnings as well. On top, look at our tornado warning is in a flash flood warning. They have had almost 6 inches of rain down in this area since Sunday. So the hits just keep on coming here. So over the last 3 hours, we've seen anywhere to 2 to 3 inches in this vicinity. Again, we're getting that extra energy from a low pressure in the upper levels, and so it is rough down here into Texas. Now, yes, we get, tornadoes by themselves in the month of June, but Jen, we also have some prolific, tornado makers from hurricanes.
Yeah, so June is kind of the transition.
Right, let's talk about some of this heat here. And again, we are showing you some extreme temperatures. I want you to look at Dallas, 89 degrees. I feel like in Dallas, you don't classify that as that hot, right? Because we can have stretches of 100 degrees. After 10 minutes, it's 108 degrees in the car. It's significant. And we still have heat advisories. North Carolina, South Carolina, also into Georgia as well. And by the way, it's not just what it reads on the thermometer, it's the humidity on top of that, right? So these are just our highs today. And by the way, these are taken in the shade. These are not even taken in the direct sunlight. They're taken in the shade. You throw in that moisture, and that's what it feels like. Can you imagine? 107 degrees from Columbia on into Charleston tomorrow, Jim. More of the same. We're not getting a breakdown here.
That walk on Market Street.
Not sure which one they said softball. Did you see that one indented into the ground? I just saw right when the banner dropped down. From the wide view what this looked like, because it is pretty stinking cool. Even if you're not a super meteorologist, you know how I always say the atmosphere is like a hamburger? Do me a favor and zero in on the clouds. You're going to see some clouds at lower levels coming in this direction, and you're going to see some clouds from upper levels going in the other direction, okay? So you see that moisture coming in at the low levels and the storms fire up there, and that's why we say you have to look at each layer of the atmosphere. Now, this is a favored area for hail early to mid-June, and it does basically take us into the plains. Denver, we are in that. The greatest risk, though, right there on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. You get that moisture, you still can get some of that colder air coming in. So how that hail forms? Well, you do have that warm, moist air coming in, and it's all about really strong updrafts. That's what keeps these, up in the thunderstorm. Jen, over to you.
All right, Steph, most
news. That's what we're talking about today. And a lot of people want to start with the bad news first and end with the good news. The bad news is there is more rain, especially into South Texas. The good news is it's wiping out the drought. Corpus Christi, we had about a 7-inch drought for the year in Corpus on Sunday. With all this rain that's come in, we're down to about 1.33 inches or something like that. All right, so it has wiped out the drought. So that's a little good news with this. Why is it that South Texas is seeing more rain than Houston? Well, one of the reasons is this low pressure that we have hanging in the area. So, when you're sitting on the couch and you try to force yourself to get up, and then someone gives you a hand, they just pop you right up. That's what's happening. The moisture's coming in, so it's slowly coming in, but this low pressure in South Texas, that's just popping it off. That's pulling you right off the couch. And so you can see that counterclockwise spin. You see that spin around this kind of trough, this area of low pressure. That's what's kicking off the storms. Some rain here into Houston. Again, we don't see in Houston today, thankfully, the stream of moisture coming off the Gulf of Mexico. So, Jen, I do think that that's actually going to be a saving grace. We'll see storms, but we don't see that stream of moisture.
Right, and you know what? We didn't get it every
in Omaha this morning. I say the Gators will probably opt to play this morning because we do well in the rain, apparently. Right now, 70, and we are seeing those showers here as we widen out this area. Nebraska, Iowa, we've just been getting nailed with the rain. I mean, some areas in Nebraska up to 7 inches of rain, another 2 to 3 on top of it. Flash flood warning, and again, you're like, Abrams, there's no water. Well, sometimes it takes a second for those streams, creeks, everything to rise on up. We do have flash flood watches. That means the conditions are favorable for flash flooding. This low pressure is going to be the culprit. It will eventually move east, but anywhere you see a low or fronts, those are lifting mechanisms. And so the rain is going to ride along those systems, and that is going to squeeze the moisture out of the atmosphere. That's really kind of what happens. But you can see that big low pressure flowing around. 3 o'clock, you're going to get kind of these spots that are popping up. That's the daytime heating. That's kicking in. And so it's going to be kind of an all-day affair for us here, but that is eventually going to be moving out. So that is the good news. Jen, thunderstorms turning into showers on Thursday.
Yeah, some of that moving to Illinois, too. And in northern Illinois, this is exactly what we don't.
And, we're going to talk more about Charleston, South Carolina, 96 degrees. This is where we actually have the heat advisories for the day today. I mean, after 10 minutes, 115 degrees in the car. So this is where we're going to be sweating it out from Raleigh to Wilmington, Charleston, all the way down into Savannah. And there are the numbers. Now, remember, this number is taken in the shade, and this does not factor in the humidity. This is the number you need to know because this is what it's going to feel like outside. 106, 107 degrees, and there's no relief tomorrow. We're going to see yet again more storm, more heat, I should say, with storms popping in maybe Friday and Saturday to give a smidge of relief. But Jen, I mean, easily 10 degrees hotter than this because, again, this is in the shade.
Oh, gosh, 98 in Charleston. It's so hot.
I'll show you the thunderstorms that cause these. And I always say the atmosphere is like a hamburger and you have to look at all the different layers. Well, you can notice this first layer, the surface, that moisture coming in on the east side of this, and then you have our storms coming in on the west side of this at a different layer, and how they're just going in different directions there. Pretty cool to see that. And this is an area where we do see hail, you know, this time of year. And just to show you a comparison of what we're talking about, the updraft required here into golf ball size hail, you have to have an updraft of 65 miles an hour. Look at softball. You have to have a 100-mile-per-hour updraft to keep that hail supported. So where do we typically see it this time of year? Down through the plains. That's where we usually see it. And then today, it's going to be on the low side, but there is that chance of hail anywhere from Des Moines all the way down towards Abilene. Jen.
All right, well, most of Houston.
And let's talk more about that. Now, this is not all a bad thing, because from Houston down towards Corpus, we were 5 to 7 inches below average on rainfall for the year. Now Corpus is like an inch and something. And I bet with the rain this morning, we totally wiped out the drought in Corpus. Now, why in southern Texas are we seeing more rain and more heavy rain than around the Houston area? Why in Beaumont did we see more rain yesterday? Well, it's two different scenarios. First of all, in Beaumont, we just happened to get right in the flow of the moisture. So we had a train of moisture into Beaumont. Into South Texas, we have this low. That is influencing us. That is helping squeeze more moisture out of the atmosphere. So, you know, it's kind of like, yes, the rain is there, but unless you have something to force it out of the atmosphere, then it just kind of sits around and is hot and humid, and it rains, but it's not going to be excessive like we're seeing here into South Texas. That's why I think Houston, yes, are we going to get some rain? Are we going to get some puddling and ponding and this and that? Absolutely. But look at this. I mean, by the afternoon, it's just kind of scattered. So, you know, right now we're not anticipating what's happening in South Texas to happen in and around the Houston area. So that is the good news. The bad news is it's going to continue down into the areas where we've seen, you know, 7, 8, almost a foot of rain in just a short amount of time. But you can see that counterclockwise spin. You see that. That's that low pressure. And thankfully, that's going to start to fall apart, and we're going to see some breaks in the rain. Jim? Back to Nebraska, Omaha, seeing the showers. Of course, Florida liking that rain, being able to beat Texas yesterday. So a good luck charm. And you see that little spin. That is our low pressure. And again, this is something that helps squeeze out the moisture from the atmosphere. The same for our fronts that are in this area, too. Flash flood warning still exists here for us around the Fort Dodge area. Otherwise, flash flood watches. That just means that we really have to pay attention to what's happening, because we could get enough rain to cause flash flooding. Low pressure, otherwise, is going to eventually be moving eastbound. But before it does that, the low and the associated fronts are going to take all of this wetness in the atmosphere and dump it out on us. So here it goes. Again, we're going to get some of that daytime heating. Watch 1, 2, 3 o'clock. You're going to get some more of these spotty showers to fire up here. And it's going to be really an all-day event for us here into the Midwest and the Plains. Jen?
Well, northern Illinois.
And, you know, Dallas, 89 today. Not that hot for Dallas. So you might think, oh, it's on 100 degrees. No, after 10 minutes, it is 100 degrees inside the car. But where we're going to have the advisory say, South Carolina, that's where it's going to be extremely hot. And again, the number that we show you is just what it says on the thermometer. So heat advisories, Raleigh, all the way down into Savannah. At least in Charleston, you get a little breeze off the water. But this number is taken in the shade and doesn't factor in the humidity. So temperatures here into the mid to upper 90s. This is all we should care about, because this factors in the humidity. Also, it doesn't give you the direct sunlight. That just factors in the humidity, so it could feel hotter. So tomorrow, not much changing for us here. Charleston, we are steady Eddie above average with the sunshine, a little relief of the clouds and the showers Friday and Saturday. Jen,
You walk down King Street to
is coming down at. Now we can show you the thunderstorms that caused all this hail, and I always say the atmosphere is like a hamburger, so you have to look at every layer. Look at this flow coming in at the lower levels. You can see the clouds building and the upper level flow crossing that. So you can see there's a lot going on in the satellite. You see also a flow coming up over here at lower levels. So really impressive to look at that satellite picture. Now, hail sizes. What type of an updraft do you need in order to support that hail? Well, look at golf ball, 65 mile per hour updraft. Softball size hail, you need a 100 mile per hour updraft. Think about how strong that is. So if it's going up like that, think of how fast it's coming down to make that divot. Denver, this is an area that we do see hail. Most exceptional down Texas and into Oklahoma. You get that moisture at the low levels, cooler temperatures. And of course, you have this warm, moist air coming in, but with these strong updrafts, it's going to bring this particle, this little raindrop up. It's going to freeze, it's condensing. You're going to get more pieces condensing. You know how hail looks different in all sorts of ways? It's going to go larger and larger until the updraft can no longer support it, and then that hailstone is going to fall down, and obviously at very fast rates at that. So